The phone shattered the stillness of my Anchorage office at 2:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, its shrill ring slicing through the hum of unpaid invoices and the faint creak of my chair. For 15 years, I'd run Torres wilderness expeditions, guiding adventurers through Alaska's wildest terrains, hunters tracking grizzlies, photographers chasing auroras, researchers cataloging tundra blooms. Morning calls usually brought eager clients planning their next thrill. Afternoon calls, though, carried a different weight, a desperate edge hinting at emergencies or secrets too urgent to wait. I answered, my eyes drifting to the stack of bills teetering on my desk. A lease overdue, an equipment supplier's final notice, a truck transmission repair looming like a storm cloud. Torres Wilderness Expeditions, I said, my voice steady despite the knot in my gut. Mr. Torres, my name is Anthony Bianca. I need your services for an expedition to Montague Island. The voice was rich, polished, an East Coast cadence that spoke of privilege and authority, the kind of tone that brooked no refusal. The name pinged faintly in my memory, but I couldn't place it. Perhaps a whisper from some high society circle I'd never entered. Montague Island. I pulled up the map on my computer screen, my fingers tracing the Gulf of Alaska's jagged edge. The island sat 60 miles from the nearest mainland port, a remote speck of green swallowed by gray waves, its interior a labyrinth of dense forest and rugged cliffs. Montague's pretty remote, I said, stalling as the map loaded. What kind of timeline are we talking about? 3 days from now. I understand you charge premium rates for short notice. 3 days. Most clients booked months ahead for terrain like that. Not a weekend jaunt, but a commitment to survival. I leaned back, considering. Depends on what you're planning to do out there. Hunting, research, photography, ecosystem study. My team needs to collect samples and document wildlife patterns. Nothing invasive. His answer was smooth, too smooth. The words clipped as if rehearsed. In 15 years of guiding through Alaska's most unforgiving landscapes, I'd learned to read the silences, the hesitations. Clients who dodged specifics usually harbored something they didn't want aired. Contraband, illegal hunts, or worse. How many people in your party? For total, including myself. We'll need transportation to the island and guidance for inland exploration. I quoted my standard rate for remote island expeditions, $12,000 for a week-long trip, then tacked on a 20% surcharge for the rush. The figure, $14,400, was steep enough to make most balk and reschedule. $50,000 should cover it, Bianca said without pause. $50,000. My standard rate was a fraction of that. His offer was over 4 times the norm. Mr. Bianca, I think there might be some confusion about the pricing. No confusion. $50,000 for 1 week, all expenses covered. I value discretion and expertise. From what I've heard, you provide both. My screen flashed with reminders. The office lease, the equipment debt, the truck repair. $50,000 would erase every lien, leave enough to upgrade my gear, maybe even take a breather from the scramble of odd jobs. I swallowed hard, the weight of the decision settling like ash. I'll need to research the location and check weather patterns, I said, already knowing I'd take it. Montague Island wasn't tourist-friendly, but $50,000 bought a lot of resolve. Excellent. I'm staying at the Hotel Captain Cook downtown, Suite 2847. Can you meet this evening to discuss details? After hanging up, I spent the next 3 hours diving into Montague Island's history. What I uncovered sent a chill through me, a premonition I should have heeded. 6 months earlier, a team of 5 marine biologists from the University of Alaska had vanished there. They'd been studying seabird populations and marine ecosystems. Their last radio contact a garbled plea on day 4 of a 2-week expedition. Coast Guard search teams found their base camp empty. No signs of struggle, no emergency beacons triggered. Personal belongings lay untouched, but all scientific equipment and data had vanished. 2 rescue helicopters lost radio contact over the island's interior, later found crashed in dense forest, their crews dead. Official reports blamed sudden weather shifts and mechanical failures, but local pilots avoided Montague's airspace like a plague zone. Native Alaskan communities whispered stories of Angwin, the place of angry spirits, passed down through generations, their reluctance to elaborate a wall of silence I couldn't breach. I printed the research, telling myself I was just being thorough, though the $50,000 in my future felt like a noose tightening. The hotel Captain Cook loomed over downtown Anchorage, a monolith of glass and steel where politicians brokered deals and oil tycoons dined. The elevator carried me to the 28th floor, thick carpeting muffling my steps like a shroud. Bianca answered before I knocked. A man in his late 50s or early 60s, his grooming impeccable, hair silvered just so, skin taut from expensive care. His outdoor gear looked showroom fresh. A Gore-Tex jacket with tags dangling, hiking boots unscarred, pants crisp as if ironed for a boardroom. "Mr. Torres, thank you for coming on short notice," he said, ushering me into a suite larger than my apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed Cook Inlet's slate waters. Two men already seated in leather chairs. One was thin, pale, fidgeting with an electronic device. David Doyle, Bianca's technical expert, nervous as a cat in a storm. The other, Robert Heller, could have snapped me in half, his military bearing evident in his crew cut and the way his eyes mapped the room in seconds. His handshake was firm, professional, his gaze memorizing my features. "Security consultation for an ecosystem study?" I asked, skepticism creeping into my tone. Remote locations had risks, sure, but a bodyguard built like a tank suggested more than wildlife concerns. Bianca spread maps across the coffee table, pointing to Montague's northern coastline. "We need to access the interior forest, 5 to 8 miles inland." The terrain was brutal, thick forest, no trails but manageable. What gnawed at me was the vagueness. "What kind of samples are you collecting?" "Soil, plant material, wildlife specimens, various organic materials," David mumbled, eyes on his device. "We have specialized equipment for collection and preservation." Vague again. Legit research teams couldn't stop detailing their protocols. These men acted like spooks guarding state secrets. I pulled out my printed research. "You're aware of what happened to the last team on Montague?" Bianca's face stayed neutral, but his eyes flickered. Annoyance, not surprise. "Tragic accident. Poor planning, inadequate preparation. That's why we're hiring you." "The Coast Guard lost 2 helicopters," I countered. "Weather conditions in the Gulf can change rapidly," Robert said, his voice flat, rehearsed. Bianca opened a briefcase, revealing stacks of $100 bills. $25,000 in cash. "The remainder when we return." The money sat like a dare. Everything screamed wrong. The secrecy, the missing biologist's fate, the bodyguard's presence. Smart money said walk away, stick to safer gigs. But $50,000 meant freedom from debt, the chance to choose my next job. "When do we leave?" I asked, reaching for the cash. "Thursday morning. I've chartered a fishing vessel from Seward. The crossing should take 8 hours." David piped up, "Weather forecast shows clear conditions for the next week. Minimal wind, calm seas." I requested an equipment list and the captain's contact, but Bianca waved it off. "Everything's arranged. Your role is navigation and wilderness expertise." Non-answers again. Clients who micromanage details usually hid something, but $25,000 in my pocket dulled the red flags. "Meet at Seward Harbor, Thursday, 6 a.m. Slip B7. The vessel is northern wind." Walking back to my truck, I rationalized. Rich clients often cloaked their motives, especially for exclusive access. The missing biologists were a fluke. Alaska swallowed people whole with regularity. The money felt solid, more real than my doubts. Thursday was 48 hours away. Time to prep for whatever this ecosystem study entailed. At 6 a.m., Seward Harbor's salt air stung my lungs as I stood on the dock. Northern wind bobbed at Slip B7, a 40-foot fishing vessel weathered by 30 years of Gulf storms. Captain Jim Kowalski emerged, a 60-something with leather hands and eyes that had seen every wave's wrath. "You Torres?" he asked, assessing me like cargo. "Taking us to Montague Island." His expression shifted, not fear, but a weary recognition. Been fishing these waters 32 years. Never had anyone ask for Montague. Sure that's where you want to end up? My clients are researchers, studying the ecosystem. Kowalski grunted, a sound devoid of humor. Ecosystem, huh? Coffee's hot in the wheelhouse. 20 minutes later, Bianca arrived in a black SUV with David and Robert. They unloaded gear bags and equipment cases with military precision. Bianca in his pristine jacket, David clutching a metal briefcase, Robert scanning the dock like a sentry. "Gentlemen," Kowalski said as they boarded. "Name's Jim Kowalski. I'll be your chauffeur for the next 8 hours." Bianca's smile was practiced. "Anthony Bianca, we appreciate the short notice." "Short notice is one thing. Montague's another. You folks know anything about that place?" Kowalski asked. "We've done our research," David said, his voice tight. Kowalski shook his head. "My grandfather, an Ayak, called it Angwin, place of angry spirits. Never went near it, even when fishing was bad elsewhere." Robert dismissed it as superstition, but Kowalski's gaze lingered. "I've been out here long enough to know when something doesn't feel right. 6 months ago, those university people vanished. Coast Guard lost 2 choppers. Equipment failures, poor weather," Anthony said smoothly. "Weather was fine that week," Kowalski countered. "I was fishing 20 miles south. Calm seas, clear skies." He started the engine, the diesel rumble vibrating the deck. "But you're paying the fare, so we go where you want." We cleared the harbor, heading southwest into Prince William Sound. The morning was crisp, the chop a gentle reminder of the sea's power. I watched my clients. David hunched over his devices, Anthony studying hidden charts, Robert vigilant at the horizon. "Beautiful country out here," I said to Anthony. "Indeed," he replied, folding his chart. I probed about David's data, atmospheric readings, he claimed, but the encrypted devices and briefcase screamed misdirection. 3 hours in, Kowalski called me to the wheelhouse. The GPS showed us halfway, Montague a green blip. "Your clients aren't what they seem," he said quietly. "Real researchers ask about tides, currents, safe anchorages. Your boss acts like he knows it all." I glanced back. Anthony with his charts, David with his gadgets, Robert's watchful stance. "The university team that disappeared. You know more?" Kowalski hesitated. "I found their boat, drifting 20 miles southeast. Engine running, radio working, emergency beacon active, but no people. Perfect condition, food warm in the galley. Coast Guard logged it as equipment failure, probable drowning. But the boat wasn't damaged, and these waters don't hide bodies long. They found a camp on the island, but those people never made it back to the boat. Whatever happened, it was on Montague." A cold settled in my gut. David interrupted, asking the ETA 4 hours. By mid-afternoon, Montague loomed, a dark line against the horizon, too dark, as if it devoured light. No seabirds circled, no whales breached. Dead water, Kowalski called it, grimly noting the absence of life. As we neared, the silence thickened, the water darker, almost viscous. Anthony pointed to the northern shore, a rocky stretch unsuitable for landing. "There," he insisted. Kowalski muttered, "Your funeral," but adjusted course. The temperature dropped as we approached, the sun's warmth dimmed by the island's presence. Robert joined me at the rail, his eyes on the coastline. "Ever been anywhere like this?" I asked. "Remote islands, yeah. Places in Afghanistan locals avoided, cursed land," they said. "Learned to trust their knowledge." We anchored 20 yards off a bone-littered beach. Fish skeletons, bird bones, arranged in deliberate spirals. "Jesus," Kowalski breathed. Anthony showed no surprise, David packing with efficiency. "This will do," Anthony said. Kowalski set a 72-hour return. "If you're not here, I'm not waiting." We ferried gear ashore, bones crunching underfoot. David photographed the patterns, Anthony consulting his charts. As northern wind vanished, isolation hit us against an island that felt alive with hostility. The forest ahead was a wall of twisted trees, shadows shifting unnaturally. 5 researchers had vanished into that darkness. Now we followed, led by men with secrets. Stepping into the forest, silence enveloped us. No insects, no birds, no rustling life. The trees, Sitka spruces and western hemlocks, grew in twisted patterns, branches pointing inward like compass needles. Unusual growth patterns, I noted. Soil conditions, Anthony replied, unconvincing. David struggled with military-grade cases, refusing help. 40 minutes in, a strip of blue fabric hung from a thorn bush, fresh, not weathered. University team had blue jackets, Robert said. A crushed GPS followed, its damage deliberate, not accidental. Equipment failure, Anthony claimed, but the pattern suggested immense grip strength. The forest thickened, twilight descending despite the afternoon sun. 3 miles inland, we found the scientists' camp. Tents shredded, gear destroyed, dark stains soaking the ground. No bodies, just systematic ruin. A journal's final entry, shaky and frantic, spoke of sounds, a large presence, a decision to stay. They're all dead, I said. Presumed dead, Anthony corrected, unfazed. David photographed. Anthony pointed deeper. 2 more miles to a research site. We camped in a clearing, the forest pressing close. Anthony's efficiency suggested familiarity, his equipment, drilling tools, radar units, revealing geological intent. Robert set a combat-ready perimeter. As darkness fell, the temperature plunged unnaturally. A buzzing rose from the ground, rhythmic like breathing, joined by cracking sounds. Movement circled us, invisible but felt. At 3 a.m., silence crashed in, heavy and wrong. Dawn revealed 8-foot claw marks on every tree, deliberate, massive. We pressed on, the trail guiding us. The air thickened, the cold deepened. Robert raised his rifle at a shadow, large, upright, intelligent, vanishing into the trees. A mile later, a colossal Sitka spruce dominated a clearing, its trunk split by a carved opening, symbols lining the interior. Anthony's excitement peaked. David drilled, extracting metallic wood. Breathing emanated from within, deliberate, alive. The creature emerged, a 12-foot bear-like monstrosity, rotting flesh, burning eyes. Killed Anthony, David, Robert with surgical precision. I fled, running 8 miles to the coast, collapsing as northern wind returned. 3 years later, I live in a cabin near Fairbanks, haunted by dreams of those eyes. Bienka was a hunter of liminal entities, his library fueling others' quests. I monitor scanners, waiting for news of Montague's next victim. Have you ever felt a pull toward the unknown? A thrill in the dark? Would you dare explore where shadows hide monsters? This tale might call to you if you thrive on true horror's edge.